The building you see there behind me is part of Smith County's historic past. And now, thanks to local leaders, it will be part of Smith County's future.
This is the Carthage Junction Depot. It's a structure that was built in 1890 by the Tennessee Central Railroad Company, and it was located over at Carthage Junction Depot, which is actually in Gordonsville. And that structure, it actually got moved in the early 70s by a gentleman. It was about to be torn down by Tennessee Central Railroad. They were about to demolition it, and he bought it from them and moved it over by exit 258. And it has been a barbecue place, a antique store. It's had several different a car dealership. It's been several different things while it was sitting there.
And so at the current location, we're here in between basically Gordonsville and Carthage. Why did you move it to the current location? And when was it moved here as well?
Okay, KFC Taco Bell bought the lot that it was sitting on. And we went over and asked them, what are your plans for the building? They said, well, we're going to tear it down. And we asked them, they said, well, would you donate it if we would move it off the lot? And they said, of course we would. We'd be happy to do that. So they actually delayed their plans a little bit to allow us to raise money to be able to move the depot. We went out to the community and we raised over $40,000 in the local community. No taxpayer funds was used in this. We talked to the county and they donated this spot of ground right here that we have here at the Crump Parish Park Complex. Mm-hmm. And we were able to get a company to come in, and we had to remove the roof to get it under the interstate, and it was brought over and then reassembled. Rackley Roofing Company donated that. They were generous enough to go over there and actually remove the roof, and then we moved it under the interstate ramp and brought it to the location here, and then they replaced the roof back on the structure like it is now.
Is this going to be the permanent location, or are there thoughts about moving it again?
Okay, that's the reason it's sitting where it is, because what you want to do with a historic structure like this, since it had already been moved once, I'm not sure it could be placed on the historic register, but eventually it will be put on the historic register, because right here it's going to be its home. We're right at the terminus, well, not the terminus, but almost the terminus of the Carthage Junction that came all the way into Carthage, and we're also at a spot called, used to be called Piper's Ford. We've renamed it that again, right on the Caney Fork River. And we've got a lot of uses that we want to make out of this old depot, since it's right by the railroad that it served, and it's also right by this spot on the Caney Fork River.
So speaking of those uses, what are the plans for the future for this building?
Well, we're hoping to have a lot of multitude of uses for it. We eventually are going to put a building in the back. We're going to raise the money for that and put a building in the back that's going to be similar to the South Carthage Depot that was here. And we're going to put bathrooms and a concession stand on the bottom of it, bathrooms and kitchen in the top of it. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll run a deck around this depot, which we have to for ADA compliance, and we're going to join that deck to the other building. And then one of the uses would be, well, let me mention two. On the bottom part, we're going to have kayak access to the Caney Fork River here. It's from the Gordonsville ramp to here is basically 7 miles. From here to the Carthage boat ramp is basically 7 miles. So we've got a chance to have people come in here and kayak, and we have an outfitter, Tennessee Kayak Outdoors, they're over in town, and they'll be able to take and drop people off at Gordonsville. They can come here or from here to Carthage, and that's one thing. Second thing, the upper floor, you'd be able to rent this for parties or meetings or anything you'd like to do for a small group. You know, I'm saying 20, 30 people. Sure. And this back room where the octagon is going to have an area where table seating will be. The center section and the front section are going to be like a museum and a gift shop and an internet cafe. So it's going to have a lot of uses.
As far as history is concerned and preserving history, how glad are you to be a part of the Smith County leadership group that decided that you wanted to make sure that this building did not get destroyed?
Oh, well, I think things like this are absolutely essential for us, because people have a tendency, when old buildings disappear and things kind of go away, people have a tendency to forget our history. This building right here, Alvin York walked through that. He got off here and walked around. Cordell Hull stood in this building and caught trains going back and forth to Washington, D.C. All our World War I veterans, all our World War II veterans, they left at this depot and they came back at this depot. So there's a lot of rich history that's right there in that building, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to keep it. You know, I had one fella tell me, he said, well, the only thing's holding that together is the termites are holding hands. Well, luckily, when we got into restoring the building, we found out the damage wasn't as extensive as they thought, and it was built pretty well back in 1890, and we were able to, put it back together. If you look inside, you can see that we've restored and put the wooden walls back, the wooden ceilings. We tried to go with lighting that looks like the period, and so we feel like that it's going to be here for a long time to remind people of the rich heritage and history that we have here in Smith County.
If somebody wanted to donate to the cause, as far as I know there is still improvements to be made, that kind of thing, what's the best way to do that as far as donating?
Well, we have a depot committee, and a young lady named Virginia Alexander is the chairman of that committee right at this time. And if you wanted to make a donation, you could do that, bring it to the Smith County Chamber of Commerce, 939 Upper Ferry Road in Carthage, 615-735-2093. You could contact us there. There's also a GoFundMe account. We've noticed that lately we haven't pushed it a lot and there's not as much activity on that, but that's another way for you to donate for it. But the best way is just come by the chamber. We had a gentleman here, he hasn't lived to see the fruition of the project, but Mr. John Leftwich, who was a wonderful member of our community. He since went on. He made a sizable donation because he believed in this project, and we're going to put some monuments up to honor people like that. And there's been a lot of other folks that have made some really wonderful donations to see this project. There's a lot of people that really believe in what we're doing here.
Preserving history so future generations can know about the past of where they call home. All thanks to Smith County leaders who, at the same time, plan for the future. Reporting from Smith County, Barry Hyatt, NCTV.